iHorror, the official podcast of iHorror.com. This is episode 46, otherwise known as season 3, episode 10. And I'm going to level with you. This is take 3 because we've had some technical problems on this. But hopefully those are behind us, and we're going to actually have an episode this time.
Technical and emotional problems these last few weeks.
Yeah, there are problems everywhere. I'm your host, James J. Edwards, and with me, as always, your other host, Jacob Davison. How you doing, Jacob?
Doing pretty good. Third time's the charm.
Yeah, let's hope. We're all knocking wood. Also with us is your other host, John Correa. How you doing, John?
I was a little sleepy, and then you said we're all knocking wood, and I was like, whoa, hey, this is going to be one of those kind of episodes?
Yeah.
All right.
We're all loopy on this third try. We've been through this intro so many times that now we're drunk on it. And also with us this time, We've got a special guest. We're going to bring him on right now because we want to talk to him for pretty much the whole episode. You may remember him from our Pride episode last year, but this is our first repeat guest, our double dipper, Waylon Jordan. How you doing, Waylon?
I'm great. I'm still happy on the third try to be the first double dipper. Does this make me a quadruple dipper now that we've tried 3 times? Or
unofficially? Yeah. I mean,
you're an old veteran. We may as well just have you on as the fourth host from this point on. Before we get started, we have a champion in our midst. Final exam horror trivia. Jacob won it this week.
Oh, yeah.
He took down Brian Collins of Horror Movie A Day fame. That's what the website was called, Horror Movie A Day, right?
It's the final exam horror trivia that they do every Friday, hosted by sorry, I have trouble with your last name, Ted Geoghegan and Michael Gingold. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and it's just nice to have a weekly activity like that every week. You know, it's like a multiple choice trivia contest, and I've been playing for several weeks, and last night I made number 1.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I always see the tweets going out saying, play with us tonight, and then I always forget. But I always want to go in and play it, but I need to start putting it on my calendar or something.
Yeah.
I always miss it.
And they also do replays on the weekend. So there's more than one opportunity.
Is it the same questions?
Yeah, it's the same question, so you can only kind of play once, and I think they only do prizes on Friday nights.
Is it the honor system, though? So someone who played Friday night could totally go in and just rock it on the weekend? Would they yell at that guy?
And yeah, I mean, they're pretty good at identifying that, and I mean, it's just, I guess it would be more for bragging rights because like only the first game has prizes. I also wanted to say like it was pretty fun. This week was Argento themed, so.
Oh, that's why you won.
Probably. Yeah, I did nail a lot of those questions, and now I've got a Synapse copy of Tenebrae on the way, which is one of the few Argento movies I don't already own.
Nice.
Cool.
Oh, and also I forgot to add, I made first out of 376 players.
Oh, nice. That's a big pool to win out of, dude. Congrats.
Yeah. No, I just went at it, man.
Now I gotta say, folks, we Jacob is definitely the Giallo guy here, and this isn't a very visual medium podcasting. I don't know if you guys are aware of that, but I've had to visit Jacob twice during quarantine. We practiced social distancing, all that fun stuff. You know, I had dropped off stuff. He handed me stuff. He sat down, walked away, all that fun shit. Both times he was wearing his black Giallo gloves, right? Like he's a killer. But this last time, Jacob had his black Giallo gloves on, his Vinegar Syndrome t-shirt, and his Tom Savini, Jason Voorhees COVID mask. like just walking around like he's like the next big like slasher killer or something. I didn't know who to fear more, COVID or Jacob.
Well, I figure if I'm going to encourage social distancing during the pandemic, I might as well scare people away. Because, I've been going out and just people, like at the grocery store and whatever, aren't keeping their distance. So I figure if I dress up freaky enough, they'll keep their distance on their own.
Agreed. That's why I got black masks, with a pentagram and goat in the middle.
Nice.
Mine's a little more subtle, so it sneaks up on you. Like I'll be at, Dollar Tree buying like 20 Blu-rays because that's a thing weirdos like me do. And then, they'll be like, "Oh, how's it going?" And they look at my mask and go, "Huh?"
Oh, and John, I'm going to use this opportunity to segue because we got our Vinegar Syndrome orders. Yeah.
Yeah, we did. Vinegar Syndrome had their halfway to Black Friday sale. I went hard. I know, Jacob, you went hard too, right? You got a lot of titles.
That went pretty hard.
Yeah.
I got 3 things, but I haven't gotten my order yet. I got my shipping confirmation just the other day, though, so they're on the way.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. Well, I think me and John did that flash pre-order thing, so like it would be one of the first things that kind of went up.
Well, yeah, you had to make sure that you got your copy of Rad. Like
you gotta have Rad.
Secure a copy of Rad with holographic and lithographic 3D linear cover, then in 4K, then you fucked up because it's Rad. Which isn't horror, but it's fucking rad. Come on.
Hell need 'em.
Hell need 'em. But yeah, I haven't dug too deep into all of what I got in that order yet. But I am very much so looking forward to Patty Hearst, probably the most out of my stack.
Yeah, that's a good one. I saw that on Criterion before it left.
Yeah.
And actually, I did watch through a few titles, and I do want to give a big shout out to The Severed Arm.
Oh yeah, was that one good?
Oh yeah, actually, it was. I wasn't really sure what to expect, but it was a lot of fun and genuinely pretty creepy. And big shout out to Brad F. Henderson with Vinegar Syndrome for putting that out there. It's kind of like a weird proto slasher that was made kind of in the heyday of grindhouse and drive-in movies. I think it's from the early 70s, and it's also got some of the people who did another Vinegar Syndrome release called the Candy Snatchers.
Nice.
But yeah, okay, so it's like these 5 guys are being stalked by this one-armed guy because 5 years ago they all went on to a spelunking trip together into the caves, and this is yet another movie that makes me want to stay very far away from caves, like The Descent, because they get caved in, and after like a week or something, they're out of food, and so they draw straws to like chop off the arm of like one of them, and like one of their friends loses, and they chop his arm off to eat it, but then the rescue arrives like literally a few minutes afterwards. So they're like, he lost his arm in the cave-in. He's crazy, and he gets locked up in the loony bin or something. And now 5 years later, they're getting picked off one by one, and the calling card is a severed arm, so they know it's him, and it's very. It's like if I Know What You Did Last Summer took place in the 70s, and it has kind of a Tales from the Crypt vibe to it. And all 5 of the dudes just make me think of the Channel 5 news team from Anchorman, because they all got Ron Burgundy mustaches and a lot of what was that jacket? That kind of jacket he was always wearing.
A blazer?
Yeah, they're all wearing blazers and shit.
So wait, it's from the 70s?
Yeah, it's from I think 1973.
So is this the inspiration for the spoiler alert ending of The Mist?
No, I wouldn't say that.
Where like just before help shows up,
they commit an atrocity.
And he's doing that confused kind of like sad monkey face, and just keeps switching between where it's like, I'm confused. Sad.
Best cry ever.
Great ending and great crying, but also it was one of those acting like moments where you're like, does this work? It works.
It was a choice.
It was. But yeah, can't recommend The Severed Arm enough. That was definitely one of my favorites so far, digging through my order. That, and also The Horror Star, aka Frightmare, which is basically what if Bela Lugosi or Vincent Price came back from the dead as like a Freddy Krueger type slasher character.
Oh, that's awesome.
What else has been going on? What else have you guys been seeing? I saw something that I actually loved. Have you guys heard or seen Becky?
Yes. I actually interviewed the directors for iHorror.
I loved Becky. It's like I always describe it to people as it's I Spit on Your Grave without the 15-minute rape scene, because it is basically just a revenge tale, and it goes places with like, you know, the creative kills and stuff. But it's crazy because it's got Kevin James, who, you know, this is Doug Heffernan from The King of Queens, and then it's got Joel McHale from Community. So you've got these two comic guys, but there's nothing comedic about this movie at all. It's just this brutally bloody. Lulu Wilson is the titular Becky, who is the one who's out for revenge, and it's kind of a home invasion movie, but it's also just a revenge, you know, a bloody revenge thriller.
I dug it. I got to watch a screener, and I didn't really know what to expect going in, because again, definitely a big draw is, you know, these more comedic actors playing against type. And, you know, I like with Kevin James, it kind of reminds me of when Vince Vaughn did Brawl in Cell Block 99, because around that time he was mostly known for comedies too, but then, you know, you see him curb stomp a dude, and, you know, that changes your perspective of a guy.
Cell Block was pretty badass when he just starts punching the car.
Oh, yeah. Just barehanded. He was just beating the shit out of that car like Street Fighter.
That was a Street Fighter minigame, wasn't it?
That was, it was Vince Vaughn doing the bonus scene from Street Fighter.
I watched Becky, and I think it was a case of not the right time to be watching it, because it didn't really do much for me. I think it was because it was after one of our failed recordings. I just was like, all right, I need to test stuff on my computer. So I was like running 20 things on my computer at the same time, and then I was like, all right, I'm going to sit down and watch Becky during this. So I don't know if it's because I was stewing or...
And also, I mean, especially right now, the political and social climate right now, but I don't think there's ever really a right time for a white supremacist home invasion movie. But if there is, it's not now.
Well, that was one of the few things that I did like about it, because I thought they handled that pretty well, because it was very well established. You know, there's no redeeming qualities of this... of Paul Blart's character, you know?
He's not Paul Blart, he's Doug Heffernan. Wait a minute.
Paul Blart. The lesser of the mall cop movies. Observe and report forever. But yeah, I mean, I thought Kevin James was pretty good in it. He definitely tapped into some like darkness, which I dug. Just like, I don't... I could see why you guys like it. I could see why people like it. I just think, again, for me at that moment, it was just like probably not the. I'm going to give it a second chance in the future, but it didn't work for me at the time. But I liked a lot of like, oh man, that one kill she does with the ruler was that was awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, that was great. So I need to give it another shot.
One trigger warning for Becky though: a dog dies. I know that's one thing that people want to be spoiled.
Yeah.
That's a spoiler, but you want to hear it. A dog dies in Becky.
But yeah, it's still a great movie though, and yeah, no, it's just a very very tight home invasion type movie.
You know what else I finally got around to? And speaking of the dog dying, another minor spoiler alert. I finally saw The Lodge.
Oh,
did you guys see The Lodge?
I did.
Oh yeah.
Now that's bleak.
That is that's like The Shining on downers.
Yeah, I thought it was really solid. My only complaint was I wish we had, because they spend so much time in the beginning having the new like stepmom be like in the shadows and not really showing her, and kind of having her be mysterious and all that, which I dug until the movie got to the point where it's like, okay, we're watching her go crazy and like everything get to her, and I'm like, well, we never really got to see her be normal, so it kind of got that Jack Torrance and, you know, Jack Nicholson in The Shining thing, where it's like, did he go crazy, or were they always just kind of like this, you know? Because you don't really see Jack Torrance be normal in the beginning. He kind of always looked like he hated his family.
Well, the stepmom, the fiance, whatever she was,
right,
she was the outsider from the beginning anyway. So yeah, you're right. You don't know. You're like, well, is she crazy, or did the dad just not see her craziness before? I mean, did she go crazy, or did the dad just not see her craziness before?
And I just think that was just because of the focus, because like in the beginning, most of the focus was on the kids. And then once they get to the lodge, the focus shifts to her and it's showing her descend. But like, again, we're seeing her at the beginning of her descending. So I just wish we spent a little more time with her in the beginning, or like they just picked the focus. Other than that, it was, yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. And those kids were really, really good in it. Like, that was some solid child acting.
And don't forget Alicia Silverstone.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. The dog dying is not the only trigger warning in the lodge.
Yeah.
There's a, if you're weird about suicide, whew, that's a.
It also involves a suicide cult, so
yeah. Which, like, I eat that shit up. Like, give me. Are you making a movie that's like about your own, like, Jonestown, Heaven's Gate type? Yeah, I'm down. I'll watch it. Like, that's so far up my alley.
I'm not even sure what to say to that, John.
Well, no, I like that. I like watching that entertainment. I mean, don't get me wrong. I did reach out to the people who were still running the website for Heaven's Gate a few years back, trying to interview them. But
this is the guy who recorded an episode from his car outside of the Waco compound. Okay, we pretty much know what we're getting with.
I wasn't outside. I was in Waco. I went to the compound. I got creeped out, and then I drove away and was in a Walmart parking lot in Waco. But
I have this vision of you right outside the fence, recording the episode in your car.
Oh, I would. No, dude. I stopped to take some photos, and immediately some people started walking towards the gate towards me, and I was like, It was more out of respect because I'm like, I'm sure they don't want people coming here and being like, hey, you know that terrible thing that happened here decades ago that I'm sure you guys want nothing to do with anymore? I'm here to remind you of that. So that's, why I drove off.
Another new thing that I finally also caught up with is Escape Room, which is really old. But I finally got around to it, and it was all right. It made me want to watch the Saw movies is pretty much what Escape Room did. So, but yeah, with nothing coming out, I've been catching up on old stuff. What else you guys seen?
I actually did see something new. Joe Bob Briggs, for the last drive-in a couple days ago, did a surprise premiere of a new Shudder movie called Scare Package, which
nice.
I actually saw at the Chattanooga Film Festival, and it's basically a horror anthology comedy. So it's kind of like Creepshow meets the Kentucky Fried Movie. It's really funny. It's basically a very meta horror comedy because all the different segments usually revolve around specific horror tropes or cliches or subgenres. It's a lot of fun and a lot of gore. And I think it officially premieres on Shudder on Thursday the 18th. It just streamed, but it's going to be fully available in a few days, so it'll be available by the time this comes out. And I also interviewed the directors for that one, two of the directors, producers. So that should be coming out soon too. And
it's an anthology then?
Yeah, it's an anthology horror comedy.
That's awesome. I finally convinced Lindsay to do a double feature that it's been one of those what do you watch today? I always go, can we do a nuclear holocaustable feature of Threads and When the Wind Blows?
Oh my God.
I don't know why, but for some reason this time it's kind of like when Lindsay's like, hey, you want to watch a movie tonight? And I go, yeah, let's watch the 7-hour cut of the Russian War and Peace, So it's always been one of those joking things I want to do, but not getting around. But she went for it. So we watched Threads, which was a first-time viewing for both of us. And oh my God, that was made for TV? Dude, that movie does not pull back at all. It goes hard. And then we're in the middle of a pandemic right now, so we definitely walked away from that and When the Wind Blows, which I've seen When the Wind Blows dozens of times. That's just one of the most depressing movies out there. And
have you seen The Day After?
No.
That one, I think it might be the year before Threads, and it was the American. Basically what Threads is, it was the American one. It's not quite as graphic, but it still has some pretty horrifying stuff in it, and it was a TV miniseries. It was a 2-night event, and I remember when it happened.
Yeah,
it might have been, I think, 83, 84. But they actually, in school, they had we're going to talk about The Day After.
Yeah.
There was an educational because these were the Reagan nuclear years.
Yeah.
This is
and they were accurate too. The Day After and I know Threads was extremely accurate to the point where they're like, all right, we're jumping ahead 30 years, and this is what civilization is going to look like 20, 30 years after a nuclear holocaust. And it's like, oh my God, you guys did your research.
Yeah, isn't that where the line, the survivors will envy the dead, comes from?
probably, dude, because that's like, honestly, like we had that discussion, like, so if a nuke's going off, because, you know, we live in LA, so that's, you know, probably a hot spot or whatever. So if a nuke goes off, are we going to, you know, try to survive this? And we both were like, no, we're going to stand in the middle of the fucking road and take that wave on. Like, come on, I do not want to live through all that shit that we just saw. So, luckily, though, we've been on a Scooby-Doo kick, so we were able to recover pretty quickly. You know, we got Boomerang. We've been watching a lot of the classic series, a lot of the late 90s direct-to-video titles, too. And we actually watched the latest one, Scoob, which, as a Scooby-Doo movie, was okay. You know, it didn't really stick with the formula a whole lot, which is fine, because they're setting up the Hanna-Barbera universe, which I'm all for. Grew up on Herculoids, you know, Space Ghost, the original. I didn't even know about the Adult Swim one until much later. But the best part of that movie, and I think this is genius casting, was they had Tracy Morgan as Captain Caveman, and that was pitch perfect casting. Like, they couldn't. Man. That's all I want now is Tracy Morgan starring Captain Caveman movie.
Although, just taking a step back, what did you think of Where the Wind Blows?
Oh, I love When the Wind Blows. It's such a beautiful movie. I mean, like, Bowie did the opening title, and then I think Roger Waters did the rest of the music for it. And that's, like, around the time when, like, The Wall came out, so it had, like, that kind of, like, Pink Floyd feel to it, music-wise throughout it. But it's literally, it's beautiful, but it's the animation and the different styles they do with When the Wind Blows. But it's also so depressing because you're just watching the most British old couple just slowly die over the course of the movie due to nuclear radiation, and like it just breaks your heart, you know.
Way to bring us down.
Yeah.
Well, I tried bringing us back up with Scooby-Doo and
John's
Captain
obviously
Caveman.
been on an upper kick here.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go back to Scooby-Doo. Remember a pup named Scooby-Doo from the late 80s?
Dude, that theme song slaps still.
Yeah.
My favorite thing about a pup named Scooby-Doo is Red Herring, the character
Yeah.
Red Herring. Whenever they need basically a red herring, they're like, no, you know, this guy takes the blame.
Well, it was Fred was obsessed with Red Herring, and he always would. The running gag was he'd always accuse Red Herring of being the culprit. Like, I think there was one episode where he accused Red Herring, who didn't even appear in that episode. So Red Herring had to call in and say, "I'm not even in this episode. Lay off."
That was the joke. That the Red Herring's name was actually Red.
Yeah.
So you know he was never going to be the guilty party. They should have ended the series with that. Red Herring actually did do it that week.
There was one where he actually did do it.
Oh, was there?
There was.
I missed
I used
that
to
one
watch
then.
it all the time on Cartoon Network.
I missed that episode then. If there was one,
Well,
that
they
he was actually
just
guilty.
should have ended it where he had been the mastermind behind everything that happened in the series.
Oh, he was the...
The Blofeld.
Yeah, I was about to say, he's Christoph Waltz.
They pulled a mask off. It was Red Herring the whole time. And I would have succeeded if it wasn't for you meddling kids.
Which I am also a kid, which makes this weird. What about you, Waylon? What have you been watching?
Yeah. So let's talk to Waylon. Let's get into the Waylon part of the episode.
We've been gone for weeks, so we had a lot to talk.
Let's start with what you've been watching, because you've been silent while we've been talking.
The only new thing that I've gotten to watch lately is Shirley on Hulu with Elizabeth Moss, which I really enjoyed, but mostly because of Elizabeth Moss. I mean, she was just phenomenal in that movie. Every movement, every facial expression, everything was just, she's incredible. I don't know why she doesn't win more awards, but...
Did you see The Invisible Man?
I did.
Waylon?
I did.
Yeah.
Hell of a movie.
She's 2 for 2 this year.
And then I went back and because you guys posted about it a couple of days ago on Facebook, I went back and rewatched Eve's Bayou for the first time in probably 3 or 4 years. And God, that movie, every time I watch it, I see something that I did not see before. And it's just so incredible. So that was what I watched this week. Everything else has just been writing and prepping for book releases and all that good stuff. So, but yeah.
Let's move into that.
Yeah.
We don't want to rehash last year's Pride episode that we did with you because, who wants to hear that again? You go back and listen to that episode. But basically every June, Waylon essentially takes over iHorror with his Pride programming, with his, he's a series of articles and interviews and stuff he does. What's in store we're halfway through the month, so people know what's in store because they've been reading. But what's been happening this year?
This year I had some really great interviews this year. We've got some good stuff still coming. I've got Zoe Luna, who is a trans actress. She's starring in the new Craft reboot. I've got an interview with her that'll be coming out soon. I've got an interview with Nicholas Vince, who was the Chatterer Cenobite in Hellraiser.
Cool, nice.
And who is just the most charming, laid-back English fellow that I have ever had the opportunity to interview. So that was a lot of fun. And I've still got some more just like articles and stuff, that I'm putting together. We've done spotlights on Hellbent, which was a gay slasher movie from 2004 and has possibly the best use of a glass eye that I have ever seen in a film before. So if you've never seen that one, I cannot recommend it enough. But if you are freaked out by eye trauma, just be warned.
We're doing a lot of trigger warnings this episode.
It's horror.
Yeah, and it's not the greatest movie, but it was one of the first real gay slashers that just went for it. Nobody was in the closet. Everybody was out. It all takes place on Halloween in West Hollywood. So, there's a lot going on in it. But, and they had a queercore punk band frontman, who was a former Abercrombie and Fitch model who was their killer in it, and he just walks around shirtless with a sickle and a devil mask on. So,
Yes.
They just went all out. They just threw it all out there and did the whole thing.
Which I have to say, Halloween in West Hollywood is a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. No, I've done that. It's so much fun.
Oh, best times from what I remember.
From what you remember?
Yeah, I got sloppy that night.
Yeah, that's about what I've got going on for Pride Month this year. It's it's always a lot of fun. I start doing interviews at the end of December. So
I was about to say, yeah, this is months of work. This isn't just like, hey guys, it's June. What's up?
Well, yeah, I start planning out and deciding, even what order they're gonna post in and everything, so that by the time we actually get to June, I can just write the articles, post the articles, be ready to go instead of last minute running around going, what the hell am I gonna do this year? That kind of thing. So.
And you always solicit, it's not like you're abandoned in June to do it all yourself. You always solicit help from other people. It's just, I think that because you work on it so long, it looks like it's a Waylon takeover.
Well, and I do. I always put it out that, if anybody wants to contribute or anything, I'm always down to have some more people writing for this and taking part. But, at the end of December, I put out my first call saying Pride Month next year. If you want to be a part of this, hit me up so we can do interviews, and then just run with it that way. And generally interviews actually start around February. So
nice. Which is awesome because that's one of the things that I always loved about the horror community is we're very open. Like we accept everyone, and it's great that you do so much to shed that spotlight even brighter, for an entire month. This isn't just like, oh, we wrote an article, we did our bit. It's like, no, Waylon goes hard. Like, what would you say is the average amount of articles that go out per week during Pride?
Well, it depends on the year. This year, it's been a little bit slower because there's just been so many other things going on in the world. But, it's at least an article a day. There have been years where it's 2 or 3 articles a day, just depending on what I'm working on. So that first year, I think I did somewhere between 40 and 50 articles during the month of June, something like that, just about Pride. And then last year was probably that, if not a little bit more. So
Well, I mean, you've been busy too, because you're also working on your book series, right?
Yeah, that's not the only writing that you do. What's you got something big coming up?
Yeah,
let's talk about that.
I have actually written the first 2 books in a trilogy, a fantasy trilogy. The first book will be published September 22nd of this year. The trilogy is called the Eagle and Heart trilogy. The first book is titled the Lotus and the Gathering Storm. I will be debuting cover art for that tomorrow, which it'll already be out by the time this airs. But so Monday morning, I will be debuting the cover art for the first book, and just getting everything lined up for that. The genesis for writing this series was really weird. It was unexpected because I write a lot of horror, and I spend so much time in horror. But I have a couple of friends from Colombia, and one of them, he said he's a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and he loves Lord of the Rings and stories like that, but none of the elves ever looked like him, and it would just be cool to see elves that looked more like him every once in a while, And so I was like, okay, so I wrote a story for him and was just like, here's your story where the elves aren't all tall, white, blonde people. And, and then that story begat another story, begat another story, begat another story. And by July of last year, the thought occurred to me, I should really just put these stories together and turn them into a novel, which is how it all started. So, I've been working on the first book for about I started the stories in January or February of last year, so it's been about a year and a half that I've been working on the first novel, getting it ready to publish, but I also wrote the second novel in that time as well.
Jesus, it takes me a month to write an article. This guy pumps out 2 books. And it's hardcore fantasy too, right? Like it's
elves and magic and all of that. I didn't go urban fantasy. I didn't want my elves to be in Manhattan or anything. I've created my own world, and they an entire system of magic and everything that goes along with it. So yeah, it's more high fantasy than it is what a lot of what we're seeing in the market right now, because everything's gone to kind of urban fantasy, which is really cool. It just didn't speak to me when I started writing the story.
Tell me you have orcs in your story.
I do not have orcs. Oh, I do not have orcs. Nothing is off the table. But right now, with the first 2 books, it's been humans that have managed to break into their world have been the bad guys. So it's kind of typical. That kind of thing. So because they're all living their best lives, and then the humans get involved and shit goes down. But
isn't that always the case?
Well, I mean,
damn humans.
But so and there are going to be a lot of people who say I have kind of tried to rewrite what elves and everything are supposed to be, but that's what I set out to do. I didn't want the typical elf story. So some things are still there, but some things are different, and I just decided that we needed to do something different.
That's what makes it fantasy. You can play with it.
Exactly. Yeah, there's no strict rules.
I mean, if you're not going to have orcs, you may as well change your elves.
I will tell you, I do have a really great story in mind that I haven't started yet, but it's basically something that would turn everything on its head, and just go for more of the comedy aspect. But basically, like, orcs are vegetarian monks and things like that. So that's something that I'm kind of kicking around too. So,
like we said, you've been working on this project for a year and a half, and you've written a whole book, and then you've gotten like basically the second one written, and it's like, early stages, because I believe when we talked before, you said you've been focusing more on getting the first one ready to ship out. So you've written the second one, and then you kind of put it to the side so you can come back to it. What is your overall writing process? Like I said, I struggle to sit there and just write. So like, what's your process?
I have to really kind of commit myself to it. I also tell people, and it's really, I'm not making it up. I swear I'm not making it up. But my characters talk to me, and they kind of get into my head, and they'll start telling me something, and I'm like, okay, well, I better go sit down and write down. But, it all starts at about 10 o'clock at night for me for fiction. These novels have been written between 10 p.m. and 2:30 a.m. generally. I sit down, and it's an entire chapter at a time. It's never just like 500 words. I sit down, I write 3,000 words in about 4.5 hours, and then I get up and I, stretch and move around and realize that 4 hours have passed and I'm hungry and I need to go to the bathroom and I really need to smoke. And, but as long as the keys are on the keyboard, I stay in it, and I stay with it until the next chapter of the story is told.
Now, is it just when you sit down that they talk to you, or is it when you're doing other stuff? Do they just like kind of
randomly throughout the day, and a lot of times when I'm laying down to go to bed at night? Like, I had barely started writing the second book, and I was just laying down, and this character popped into my head, was like, I'm pregnant, right? And I was like, wait a second. Ugh. What am I going to do with that? How did that,
Been so there. It's the worst. It's like, I'm about to go to sleep. Why are you going to drop this on me?
It's like they have their whole sort of lives, and they just show up and talk to me about what's going on with them. And generally at the most inopportune time, like when I'm trying to go to sleep at night. But I think it's also because my brain just relaxes at that point, and the imagination kicks in, and so they're just there. And I laughed for a lot of years about Anne Rice. She always talked about how she knew it was time to write another vampire book because Lestat would start talking to her again. And I was like, okay, whatever, okay. But yeah, they do. They totally show up and they start talking to you. And you're like, well, what the hell am I supposed to do with that? And you get another 2 chapters out of what they tell you late at night when you're just like trying to go to bed. So...
And you said this is going to be a trilogy, right?
Yes.
Like you set it out as that. Now, what happens if you finish the trilogy and you go to bed one night and a character pokes in and goes, by the way, I'm pregnant again?
I have already considered ways in which this trilogy could be expanded into a separate series. I have ideas for that, but I'm not letting them hijack that quite yet. So if after the third one is finished and published, one of them pops up and gives me something that sounds like it deserves to be written about, then most likely I'll start doing that as well. So,
What if one of them pops up after the trilogy is written and published and says, I lied to you for those 3 books?
That's entirely possible too.
And it was all bullshit.
I mean, you can't expect your characters to tell you the truth all the time. So, I mean, that might be asking too much.
It's when you write the retraction, the retraction novel.
The real story.
The tell-all book.
I think that's kind of what happened in between Interview with the Vampire and The Vampire Lestat. Like, Interview with the Vampire is completely from Louis' point of view, and you have this entire idea of who Lestat was, and then Lestat comes along in The Vampire Lestat and completely retcons the story, and is like, no, let me tell you what I thought about what was going on during that time. So, yeah, I mean, it's entirely possible. It has precedent. You never know. Yeah, and I think that's the great part about writing fiction is that I have never been an author that sits down and plots everything out ahead of time. I would prefer to give myself over to the process and I have a general idea of where we're going, long game, but how we get there, who knows? Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen along the way?
Let's shift a little bit from your writing to another aspect of who Waylon is. You're a paranormal investigator.
Yeah.
Now, do you consider yourself a medium or a psychic? I know you're sensitive to that. What do you consider yourself?
Well, we're just going to tell all the stories today, aren't we?
This is all about you, baby. It was all about you.
I do consider myself a medium. I do, but I'm not like, it's so funny because people hear medium and they think Long Island medium or something like that. And for me,
or the head in the crystal ball on Haunted Mansion.
Yeah, for me, it's never been like that. I have more control than that to an extent.
You have the hair to be able to pull off some of that, like, Long Island medium hairdos, dude. Like, if you wanted to, you could go for it.
What's really funny, though, is that I have at least 2 friends who have messaged me to tell me that they're writing scripts that have, like, a psychic medium in them, and they're basing them on me, and I'm not sure how to feel about that now, so, I'll keep you posted on how that all comes together. I told them I didn't care as long as they gave me abs, whoever they cast to play the part. But yeah, so I've been officially investigating for about 2 decades now. Started in my early 20s, and it was something that, because of the mediumship, I had always been interested in, but then I got involved with some local groups and just kind of went from there, and I've been doing it for, and I don't actively investigate on a regular basis. I don't have time.
Busy man, definitely.
But I do still get calls from time to time saying, hey, we need a consult on this house that we're going into. Would you mind coming over for a couple of hours and that kind of thing? So yeah, I love it. And I love being a part of that and helping to kind of sort of help discover what's out there. I still haven't gotten to go on a real Bigfoot hunt yet, and I know that's something that you're really, really interested in, James. I haven't gotten to go hunt Sasquatch yet, although in my area there have been sightings for years, so it's not off it's not off the agenda. So
we've gone over that. I actually did a paper on Sasquatch, and the thing is, with Sasquatch, you're not going to find him unless he wants you to find him, because he exists on multiple planes. So, or unless you need him to play sax on your record, then you'll find him.
Wait, I'm just throwing it out there. Are we going to do a road trip episode where we go to Texas and hunt for Sasquatch with Waylon? Because I'm down.
I just hope that that Sasquatch wants to be seen, because I would love to see him. I have so many questions for him.
Here in the part of Texas that I grew up in, we have these, most people would call them the deep woods or whatever else, but it's a weird thing in Texas. They're called the bottoms, and that's where he's always spotted, is down in these sort of just like wooded areas out in the middle of nowhere. So yeah, I could take you guys out there. I can't guarantee sightings, but yeah, we could totally. Let's road trip.
This is some Boggy Creek level stuff here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
You guys just don't realize, you were talking about Waco earlier. You guys don't realize what it's like to live in Texas while something like that is going on. It's a whole different thing.
It's a big state, so there's a lot of different sections, which is why you can have parts like Austin where it's like this really weird place, and then you go to and then like 20 miles away it's completely different. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I tell people all the time, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, if that were completely a true story, I would not be surprised. I know places like that. I know places where there's just a house out in the middle of nowhere, and you don't know who lives there, and you don't know what they get up to, and you just kind of leave them alone. So,
I wouldn't be surprised if someone was like, hey, you know that movie Wolf Creek? Actually, it takes place in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
They just say it takes place in Australia,
I have a friend in Australia, and we talk about all the time how Australians are British Texans, and it just kind of works. The two groups together. So
that's what happens when you're out in the desert for too long. You get sicky butt brains. No. Another thing that Waylon does, because again, we love bringing on Renaissance people, people who do many, many things. But you're one of the, you work on the iHorror Film Festival. You're one of the curators that
I thought you were going to make him sing there for a second.
Oh, we're going to get to that too. We're going to end on a high note.
Oh, God. For that joke alone, I'm not doing it. Yeah, I've been helping with the judging and all of that, which is so much fun. I don't know if you guys have ever helped judge for a film festival before, but you really just don't know what all's out there until you're getting all of these incredible independent films and scripts that are being sent in for you to check out and rate and look and see, you know, how you put a festival together and how you program it and what works well together and all of those things. It's so much fun. It is so much fun. It is very time consuming. Usually the weekends is I devote my weekends to getting through whatever the new submissions are on there and stuff like that. But yeah, it's so much fun to watch some of these films and to spot talent and to see, oh yeah, you know, the first time I saw The Taking of Deborah Logan, which is one of my favorite films from the last 5 years or so, I really love that film. The first time I saw that, I was like, whoever made this movie, they've got talent. This is real talent. This is, you know, and so following Adam Robitel since then and seeing the way that career has flourished has been so much fun. And it's the same thing here. You might be seeing the short film that puts someone on the map, that gets them into the next, you know, level of creation in the big world. So it's fun to sit and kind of watch and pick out the ones that, yeah, I want to watch this filmmaker and see what happens.
That's awesome. Now you also judge you said screenplays, like when people submit the screenplays.
Oh, yeah.
Has that inspired you to write one? Well, maybe once you're done with the trilogy?
Well, I have a couple of short screenplays that I've written. I wrote one of the script for one of the new episodes of Terror Tales that is on YouTube, which I think they were working on filming that short episode when everything shut down, so I'm not entirely sure where all of that stands. But yeah, I've tried my hand at film writing. I'm not sure if it's really where I am or where my talents lie. I tend to be too wordy, for one thing, and you know, and so, but yeah, it's definitely something that I'm interested in, something that I'll keep trying. You never know. I'm definitely not ready to tackle a feature, but short films, that kind of thing, that's something that I'm still experimenting with.
Awesome.
And going back to the novel writing and stuff, there's also, I would be in so much trouble if I didn't put this in here. I have a short story coming out in an anthology at the end of August from Grindhouse Press called, well, my story is called Deep in the Heart, and it goes into caves and all that stuff that you were talking about earlier, which is the reason why I was laughing. But, you know, cave tours are a big thing in southern Texas, and so I've been on several of those when I was a kid, and I kind of used that for inspiration for the story. But the theme of the anthology is like summer vacation horror, so it looks like there should be some really good stuff in that. So just something else to look out for. It's called Worst Laid Plans, and it'll be out in August from Grindhouse Press.
And all the shorts are vacation based?
Yeah, it's all vacation, like, you know, vacation stories gone wrong, basically, or, you know, horror stories on your summer vacation.
Sounds like any family vacation.
Since we're jumping around, I have a question for you. What's going on with Among the Shadows? Is that dead? That was his paranormal investigating podcast.
Yeah, I just don't have time. I did. It was just one of those things.
Waylon's already doing so much.
Yeah, spread too thin. I was an avid listener.
Well,
I would love new episodes of that.
It was one of those things where I was the only one working on it, and I couldn't find someone that I could work really well with, because I like podcasts, but sometimes when you're listening to just one person talking on a podcast over and over and over again, it gets a little old, and
Well, sometimes 3 gets old too, though. Honestly, no.
I'm over that format. 3 dudes talking.
But yeah, so unfortunately, I had to set some projects aside, and that was one of the ones that had to be set to the side.
And Waylon, I wanted to ask if you were to tackle like another horror story, like what kind of horror story would you like to write?
Oh, I have ideas for a lot of haunted house horror. It's something that I love. It's one of my favorite subgenres. So I have a lot of haunted house stuff. But you know what? The funny thing is, and you guys, you're creative people, so you really do understand this. The ideas can come from anywhere, and you just never know what the idea is going to be. And when you're writing horror or something like that, you'll be. I've been walking around Walmart and suddenly had an idea. You know how would be really interesting way to kill somebody, and then a whole story just starts like running in your head from there, and it just involves something that you just saw on a shelf at Walmart, like I mean, just that kind of thing. So
like a Rampage toy,
right? I mean, you just
don't mention those Rampage toys to me. No, I bought these Rampage Stretch Armstrong toys. Yeah, we're bringing up Rampage again, guys. We're going back to season 1. I bought them from Walmart. I put them on display in my video game closet because I have a closet where I have like all my retro games set up, so I can just like close it, open it. There's a little TV in there. It's cute. It's whatever. No, dude, they started fucking leaking, and that shit got all over the wall, and I ended up having to peel all the paint off to like fix it.
I checked mine. Mine are not leaking, so you might have. I don't know. Maybe there was like a heat wave or something that got to yours, but mine are cool.
I checked the reviews on them, and like almost all the reviews were like, this broke within a day. This started leaking everywhere. I hope it's not toxic because my child was eating it. And it's like, ugh.
Well, mine are also still mint in box, so I never opened them.
Oh, I took mine out of the box. I toys are meant to be played with, I did save the heads though.
I worked at Walmart for nearly 24 years, so a lot of story ideas were born out of Walmart. So, so
that explains I was walking. When you walk around Walmart and you suddenly think about killing someone, it's like, oh, you worked in retail, didn't you?
Yeah, for over 2 decades.
I worked for Guitar Center for 11 years, so not quite 24, but I feel you.
Yeah, because you think that people are just messing with you when they say that the public can be stupid en masse, but believe me, they can.
It's even worse when you think the public is messing with you, like when you're like ringing someone up and they say something so stupid and you're like and then they give you that stare and you're like, oh shit, you're serious. Well, it's like with everything else going on, people are like, I can't believe people are so dumb to do this with all the pandemic shit, and it's like, yeah, the only people saying that are people who didn't work in retail, like, let's be honest. Or restaurants.
I mean, my husband is still working in retail, and so he's been labeled essential from the beginning of this thing, and the stories he comes home and tells, just incredible. But you get a lot of ideas from your environment. That's where I was working, so that's where the story ideas were coming from. But yeah, I do have lots of haunted house ideas. I have one that's been playing around in my head for several years now, and it's probably about time to sit down and start writing that. So I'm not sure when, but I'm sure there's an hour in the day that I'm not using for something else. So maybe then.
I would love to read Waylon's Black Friday horror story.
Oh, I got him, man.
Let you go to town.
Let me tell you, I started working for Walmart the year of Tickle Me Elmo.
If
that puts anything in perspective for you. So I went through Tickle Me Elmo, and then I went through Furby a couple of years later.
Oh, jeez.
Yikes.
So yeah, I've seen it all, man. I've seen people just throw down and bleed all over the towels that they're fighting over trying to buy.
God damn.
So yeah,
that's a good place for us to call it an episode. Actually, talking about blood on the towels at Walmart. Yeah, so let's get out of here. Our theme song is by Restless Spirit, so go give them some love. And our artwork was by Chris Fisher, so give him some love. Waylon, where can people find you besides iHorror.com, where you can find all of us? You got a Twitter, you got an Insta, any of that stuff?
Yeah, you can find me at at WaylonVox1 on Twitter and at Waylon.Jordan on Instagram. And I also have started up a personal website for my writing and stuff like that, and that is wdalejordan.com. So I can send you guys those links if you want, just to have reference. But yeah.
Cool. And where can they find you, Jacob?
You can find me on Twitter at Jacob Davison _. That is at JACOBDAVSON _.
And Korea?
Well, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Korean Barbecue. That's CORREIAN BBQ. I'm not going to push Stardust. I haven't been posting on it, so it's there if you want to watch me talk about stuff. But actually, no. Did I do Amityville? I don't know. It's been a strange few weeks, so I don't know what's going on anymore.
And for me, you can find on Twitter at Cinema Verite. That's like verite, but with fear, so it's FEARITE. You can find all three of us, actually all four. If you have a message for Waylon, we'll forward it over to him. You can find us at the Eye on Horror Facebook page, the Eye on Horror Twitter. I think we have an Insta now, thanks to Korea.
Yep.
Yes,
or
yes, we do.
at iHorror.com. You can find all that stuff. Be safe out there. There's a lot going on. There are diseases, there are protests, there are riots.
Yeah.
Keep your head up. Come out the other end. Korea, you got something to say?
Yeah, I just want to say, if you guys have been to our social media accounts recently, you'll see that we've been highlighting black filmmakers' work in the horror genre, because we here at iHorror all believe that Black Lives Matter. Very simple. It's a human rights issue when it comes down to it. And how we wanted to contribute back is to highlight these great works. So we've been highlighting some of our favorite films made by black filmmakers. So check those films out. We always try to recommend where you can find them easily, whether it's streaming and all that. And yeah, that's something that I've been having a lot of fun with. Yeah.
Also, we are firm believers that Black Lives Matter, but also with the whole Cinestate thing that's going on, we stand in solidarity with the podcasts who are leaving the Fangoria Podcast Network, and hopefully Fangoria bounces back from this, because we know it's just the parent company. So anyway, a lot of weird stuff going on in the world. Keep yourself safe, and keep those around you safe too, and we'll all come out the other end. So for me, James J. Edwards.
I'm Jacob Davison.
I'm Jonathan Korea.
Oh, and I'm Waylon Jordan.
Keep your eye on horror.